All right, so Chapter 4, Lesson 6 is divide whole numbers by fractions. Here it says Lorna is using the recipe shown to make salad dressing for a salad. She wants to make 20 batches of the recipe. How much vegetable oil and how much vinegar does she need? So here, I gave you a little hint that this warm-up is a review of something we've already learned this year. So, what are we going to do with these? Any idea? We are going to multiply. We're going to multiply. So here, the important information, we know that she wants to make 20 batches of the recipe, and she wants to make, we need to know how much vegetable oil we need, and we need to know how much vinegar she needs, okay? So, in order to get that, for vegetable oil, here's the vegetable oil. So here we need 1/3 cup for one batch, right? So how do I find out how many I need for 20 batches? Very good. We're going to do 1/3 times 20. All right. So here, and don't forget the parentheses means that we're multiplying, right? When you have 1/3 and there's nothing in between, and then you have the next thing in parentheses, that means 1/3 times 20, okay? You could also say 1/3 with the dot in the middle. You can say 1/3 with the multiplication symbol, the X in the middle, okay? So here, can I simplify before I multiply here? Nothing simplifies. So we're going to end up with 20 over, when we multiply straight across, and we get 20 over 3. So, how many times does 3 go into 20? 6 times, with how many left over? So this is going to be 6 2/3 cups. Don't forget, when you are working with word problems, you need to make sure you label your answer. All right, so now for vinegar, which is right there, we need 1/4 cup of vinegar. So on that one, we're going to do 1/4 times 20. Very good. And here, if you'd like to, you can put this over 1, just so you can have a fraction times a fraction. And can I simplify before I multiply here? Yes, we can. So here, 4 divided by 4 is 1, and 20 divided by 4 is 5. So when we multiply straight across, 1 times 5 is 5, 1 times 1 is 1. So how much vinegar, vinegar does she need? 5 cups. Very good. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to find reciprocals. Make sure you write your heading. And we need to know what a reciprocal is. Okay? A reciprocal is any two fractions. Let's see, let me just read what they have here. Dividing 3 by 1/2 gives the same result as multiplying 3 times 2, which is the reciprocal of 1/2. Here is the definition of the reciprocal. Any two numbers with a product of 1 are called reciprocals. Any two numbers with a product of 1 are called reciprocals. So here, if we look at 1/2 and 2, those two numbers are reciprocals. Now, let's just see what it looks like. Here, if I have 1/2, okay, if I multiply times 2, okay, and remember, we can put this over 1 if we want to. When we multiply straight across, we're going to get 2 over 2, which is equal to 1. So, 1/2 and 2 over 1 are reciprocals. Does everybody see that? So what do you think happens with the reciprocal? So, in order to get the reciprocal of a number, all you have to do is flip it, right? All right. And if you had a whole number, you just put it over 1 and then flip it, right? Okay? So, for example, 1, 2, and 3. Here's example 1 and 2. We want to find the reciprocal of 2/3. So here, since 2/3 times 3 over 1 is 1, then the reciprocal of 2/3 is 3/2. Same thing with the reciprocal of 1/8. Since 1/8 times 8 over 1 gives me 1, that means 1/8 and 8 over 1, or just 8, are reciprocals. You got it? So here, for example 3, we want to find the reciprocal of 5. So here we have 5, and then remember, when you have a whole number, you just put it over 1. So we have 5 over 1. That puts it in A over B form. We want to look to see what can I multiply 5 over 1 times to get 1. We just have to flip it, right? So we're going to multiply 5 over 1 times 1 over 5. You see that? And then we're going to end up with 5 over 5, which is equal to 1. So that tells me that 5 over 1 and 1/5 are reciprocals. So for these goddess, you don't really have to show any work, but I want you to make sure you write down your original number, okay? So we want to find the reciprocal of each number. Also, you guys, when you're doing your goddess, I notice when you guys are taking your notes, you guys are not writing the direction. You need to make sure you write the direction so you know what you're doing, okay? So we want to find the reciprocal of each number, okay? So here, the reciprocal of 3/5, all we have to do is flip it. The reciprocal is 5 over 3. Very good. And just to verify, if I have 3/5 times 5 over 3, that's going to give me 15 over 15, which is equal to 1. Does everybody understand how you can verify that you have the right reciprocal? Okay? So the reciprocal of 1/3 would be
3 over 1.
perfect, 3 over 1. And here with 11, remember, if you can't visualize it, just make sure you put it over 1 so you can. And then you're going to flip that to get the reciprocal, which is 1 over 11. So now we are going to divide by a fraction. Don't forget to write your heading. It says, to divide a whole number by a fraction, we're going to multiply by its reciprocal. Please make sure you write down that rule. To divide a whole number by a fraction, we're going to multiply by its reciprocal. Okay? So here in the example, it says 5 divided by 2/3. We're going to take that 5. If you want to write it as a fraction, A over B, you just put it over 1. So that's 5 over 1. Then we're going to, the division changes to multiplication. And 2/3 becomes the reciprocal. We multiply times the reciprocal. So the reciprocal of 2/3 is 3/2. And then you just multiply straight across. All right, so here it says the division expression 5 divided by 2/3 is read as 5 divided by 2/3, right? So here, if I'm looking at this problem, that means that we need to know how many 2/3 we can break up the 5 into, okay? So how many 2/3 can I get out of 5, all right? And that's what we're going to look at when we look at these picture models, okay? So here, with method 1, it says find 2 divided by 1/3. So we want to know how many 1/3 can we find in the 2. Is everybody with me? Okay? So here, the whole thing here, this is 1 whole and 2 wholes, right? Then we're going to break each of the blocks into thirds. So if I break them up into thirds, let's see here. We've got, let's see, 1, 2, 3. So this is 1/3, 1/3, and 1/3, right? And then we're going to break up the other block. 1/3, 1/3, 1/3, right? So how many 1/3s do we have in the two blocks? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Very good. So that means that 2 divided by 1/3 is equal to 6. Is everybody clear with that? That's how you show it using the picture model. Method 2 is to use an equation. Method 2 here, we're taking the 2 and we're dividing by the 1/3, and we're going to follow the rule that we wrote down right up here. Okay? So we have 2/3 divided by 1/3. That means we're going to write the 2 as an A over B. So you're just going to put it over 1. The division becomes multiplication, and the 1/3 becomes the reciprocal, 3 over 1. So we're just going to multiply by the reciprocal. Did everybody see how I was pointing to that? Multiply by the reciprocal. So 2 over 1 times 3 over 1 is equal to 6. We get the same answer as we got in method 1. All right. So here we are going to find 7 divided by 2/3, and we want to write this in simplest form. So write down, you guys go ahead and write this one down. So here we've got 7 divided by 2/3. So we're going to write the 7 as an A over B. So we're just going to put the 7 over 1, right? The division becomes multiplication, and the second fraction becomes the reciprocal. So 2/3 we multiply times 3 over 2. And then, of course, we're just going to multiply straight across. So 7 times 3 is 21, and 1 times 2 is 2. And now we can change that improper fraction back to a mixed number. So how many times does 2 go into 21? 10 times, with how many left over? And the denominator stays the same. All right, so we're going to just divide these whole numbers by these fractions, and we're going to use method 2. Okay, don't worry about drawing a picture. We're going to use method 2. So 6, make sure you write your original problem. 6 divided by 1/3 is equal to the 6 we write as a fraction, A over B. So we're just going to put that over 1. 6 over 1. The division becomes multiplication, and we're multiplying by the reciprocal of 1/3, which is 3 over 1. Is there anything that I can simplify here before I multiply? No, I can't simplify anything before I multiply. So when I multiply straight across, we're going to get 6 times 3 is 18 over 1 times 1, which is 1, and then 18 over 1 is 18. And so can I go ahead and skip that step? Are you guys okay with that? If it's 1 times 1 in the denominator, can I go ahead and skip that step and just go straight to writing 18? All right. And if you feel like you want to write 18 over 1, please do it. Okay? All right. So, how about 5 divided by 2/3? 5 over 1. Very good. The division becomes multiplication, and the 2/3 becomes 3 over 2, or 3/2. Very good. We check to see if we can simplify before we multiply. We can't. So 5 times 3 is 15 over 1 times 2, which is 2. And now we can change the improper fraction back to a mixed number. How many times does 2 go into 15? With how many left over? And the denominator stays the same. Very good. So for 4 divided by 3/4, there is your answer. So 4 over 1 times 4/3 gives me 16/3, and then we change back to a mixed number, which is 5 1/3. All right, example 6 says, at summer camp, the duration of a hockey field game, a field hockey game, is 3/4 an hour. The camp counselors have set aside 6 hours for field hockey games. How many games can be played? So here, each one of these larger blocks is 1 hour. So we have 6 of the larger blocks. What we needed to do is we need to find out how many 3/4 I can get out of those 6 blocks, right? So each one block has to be broken down into fourths. So there's 1/4, 2/4, 3/4, 4/4. Is everybody with me? We want to know how many of those we can get in each one of those in the whole 6 blocks, right? So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So that means that they can play 8 games in 6 hours. Is everybody clear with that? So that was a picture model. Here, if I'm doing with method 2, we're just going to take 6 and we're going to divide it by 3/4. So 6/1 times 4/3. Simplify before we multiply, and we end up with 8/1, which gives us 8 games that can be played.